Do you ever wish that you had more time in your day? Well, I sure do. And the wild thing is that most of us can recover up to 2 hours a day if only we had the right systems in place to manage ourselves. So today's guest is going to help us reclaim that time by working smarter. Today's guest is Leslie Shreve. Leslie is a workload management and productivity expert and the founder and CEO of Productive Day. She's created Taskology, a system that has helped hundreds of professionals from various industries increase efficiency and productivity by up to 300% to reclaim hours in their workday and reduce time spent in their email inbox. Leslie's work has been featured in outlets like Fast Company, The Huffington Post, and Business Management Daily. Before we get to the interview, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I share new episodes and other tips for managers every week. Now here's the conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today, Leslie. I'm super psyched to talk about productivity, mostly because I feel like I need help. And so I always love talking to guests who are going to help me be better in my own workday and with my own team. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Mamie. It's great to be here.
If we want to be productive and we want to be efficient and we want to be effective in managing all the things we have to do in a day to get our work done, how do you think about all of that? Like, I know you have like a unique framing for this. So like maybe just explain kind of what's the container for all the things that we have to manage in a day.
The container would be a system for workload management. Now, when I say system, I don't necessarily mean software because there's a lot of software out there. It becomes that bright, shiny object. You know, people are always looking for that workday solution, that productivity solution, or I want to get organized, or I need better time management. And there's a lot of phrases flying around out there for what people think they need. And so I talk a lot about the missing piece, really, in the workday strategy right now. And that missing piece is having a system for workload management. And what I mean by that is a methodology for your technology, something that ties together all parts of your workday. Task management, time management, email management, information management can all be included and change how you think about getting things done and how you execute in your day. And it's all actually tied together. So I think when people are thinking, well, gosh, I need help with email, or gosh, I need better time management, they're really trying to segment their day, but it doesn't work that way. It really is more than just what you think it is. Unfortunately, it really does tie together a lot of things. So having a system that ties it all together for ultimate efficiency makes everything in your day so streamlined. And I'm looking forward to talking about that today with you.
I love what you're describing as the workload or kind of workflow management that has kind of 4 domains, right? You said task management, time management, email management, and the fourth one, information management. I had never even occurred to me that we need to have an information management system or that it needs to be part of our bigger system. Could you maybe just give us the top line of each of those 4 different categories and how you think about them?
Absolutely. So let's start with task management because that's really the driver of your workday. That's your driver of progress. I think too many professionals are trying to manage their workday by project management. Now, project management is big. I mean, it's a thing in and of itself. People go to school for this, get certified, they study. It's a huge deal in companies that are run through project management, and I get it. But when we're talking about individual productivity, personal productivity, it's task management that's going to save you. It's teeny tiny action steps. And so when everybody's trying to use their whiteboards for projects or any kind of list or even an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document or anything where they want to see the project and they want to see these categories, they really don't understand that they're holding themselves back. It's task management that's going to give you that steady forward movement in your workday that everybody craves. Everybody wants to go home feeling satisfied, like I got this done. And unless things are small and achievable, that's going to be really hard with project management. So task management is really the name of the game. So we could talk on endlessly. I could talk hours about that. Time management is, in our system, has 2 parts, which includes the information management. So let me break this down. The 2 parts are protecting time and saving time. So I help my clients get 1 to 2 hours back in their workday every day. And it's a combination of these two that allow for that. So we don't go looking for time or making time or finding time, keeping time and all that. Everybody already has time, but not everyone knows how to protect it. So, a lot of people are stealing time from your day. They're throwing last minute calendar appointments on there. They're I got a minute, interruptions, distractions. There's so many ways that our time is stolen, but then also sometimes people can give it away too fast without realizing that you need this time in your day for getting things done. That's task management, or processing email, and that's email management. So you really do need to protect more time than you probably are right now in your day. Even if you want to be available to your team, I get it. You've got people, you've got direct reports, you've got coworkers and team members. You can still stay available to them, but you need to protect some of your time. So that's one way we get time back. The other one is by saving time, and not like saving time in a bank for later on, but saving it from being lost in the first place. And what I mean by that is that too many professionals are looking for things they know they have, but just can't find. This is when information management comes into play. You have to be able to find all of your reference information in a snap. That could be electronic documents in the hard drive, papers and files in your file drawers, contact information. It can even be to-do lists. And even though that's not considered reference information, it's something you're looking for maybe from time to time. So the folks out there who are using big pads, little pads, spiral pads, notepads, Post-it notes, all the planners. If you're looking for those items too often because they might be buried on the desk, that's another thing that's going to steal your time. So, but mainly it's about information management because the to-do lists get handled with task management. So that's information management. And then finally, there's email management, which always comes last in our system just because when an email comes in, really it must go back out again into a better location, a better system for the management of that item, whether it is action or follow-up, a task that goes on the task list, of which you should only have one. And then there's a lot of reference places it could go. You could print and file. You could put something in the hard drive. You could send something out. There's a million things you could do. So there's a lot of places, but you have to be able to get those things quickly or time is just going to keep leaking out of your day. So those are the 4 components that really take up your day, those 4 processes, and you really want them to be streamlined and then work together efficiently and comprehensively.
I love this so much. I want to dive into all of these things. So maybe we start with task management, because the distinction you made between task management and project management, I think is, at least for me, was like a big aha, because I have my plans and my project plans, and I have things where some things are broken down more like tasks, and some things are more kind of like bigger buckets of things to get done. And maybe you can walk us through what it is to write a task, or kind of how you think about what a to-do list looks like that isn't a project management list. When
you're thinking about getting things done, what you want to do is first, if you're looking at a project and you're thinking, wow, this is big. Or it could be a multi-step task. Maybe you wouldn't call it a project, but you know that you're going to do this and then you're going to do that. And it could go on for a couple of weeks before you finally wrap it up. So what's happening is that people are putting those items, the projects, the big things, the little things, the small tasks, the follow-ups, the ideas, the delegated tasks, like it's a jumble on that legal pad or in that planner. So when you're doing a brain dump, you're getting it all out on paper, or you're getting it out of your head. And getting it out of your head is good, but paper's not the best location for task management. I'm sorry to say, I know I'm going to ruffle a lot of feathers with that statement, but paper is a tool, not a system. So you really want to go digital for this. Get a system that you love, whether it's Asana or Trello or Todoist, or, there's 100 of them out there. So once you identify the things that you want to accomplish, now the action step for you is to figure out either the first action step to get something started or the next action step to keep something moving forward. And I want everybody to think teeny tiny here, okay? Not the outcome. Too many of my clients fall into this trap when they're learning the system and they say, well, I want to send this report to Brian by December 1st. Okay, well, that's the final step. Where are you going to start today? What's the very first thing to do? So I walk my clients through this exercise and I say, okay, Mamie, you've got this thing you've got to do. It's big. It's a multi-step task. If you had nothing else to do today and I wasn't here with you and you were going to get started and this was all you were going to do all day long, where are you going to start right now? And when I clear the decks for everybody, I clear the deck, I clear their mind, I say, you have nothing on your calendar but this. What are you going to do first? They always come up with it. They always come up with it. And they say exactly, well, I would look up last year's data first. Or I would go to Jane and I would get the report from last year. Or I would go to last month's report and look at what I did, and then I'm going to revise it. Okay, stop there. That's your first action step. That's all you need to put down. Now, if you happen to know that you're going to do X, Y, and Z after that, great. Get it in the notes section of that task. But on that top line in that subject field, which we use for the task itself, that's where you're going to state, this is what I'm going to do. And it's got to be small and achievable.
My mind is like spinning all over this because I am guilty of doing the outcome thing of like, all right, I have a workshop I'm leading. I need to have my finished slides on this date. And that becomes the task, finish slides,
right?
As opposed to getting into what is actually the first action. And I know from a procrastination perspective, I have definitely been like, oh, this is such a huge project. And that kind of, well, let me just cycle down to like, what's the first tiny action I can take to move forward is so helpful to beat procrastination too. So I feel like it's a multi-useful approach.
And I can help with that exact example that you just gave, because I think a lot of people are thinking the same thing. It happens to all of us because I'm in the middle of creating a video series for something. So a similar situation where people out there are going to say, well, but Leslie, how do you say, oh, I'm going to work on slide number 3? Like that seems ridiculous, right? We don't do that. So here's your tip. Okay. This is your strategy. When you're facing something big, whether it's writing a book or doing a whole workshop or creating a whole PowerPoint presentation, or like I am creating a video series that could be, 50 slides or something. I'm making that up. What you want to do is use the verbs start, continue, and finish, and be specific about where you are. Okay. So if it's the very first step, you're going to say start something, putting together the ideas for that workshop, or start the outline, or start with bullet 1 and flush it out. Like, what is bullet 1 going to be about? Use the word start. Then if you're in it and you've dug in and you're going to pick it up again on Friday and you're going to continue, you can say continue with bullet number 1, or continue creating the workshop work on slides, 5 through 10. Like give yourself something small that you're targeting. Like if I could get at least 5 slides done or 3 pages written, whatever, give yourself that leeway. Now, if you get on a roll and you can keep going, great. I would never stop you, but make it achievable so that you can give yourself a chance to not only accomplish that, but get on a roll if you can. Now, if you have to dash off to your next meeting, I get it. And that's why I'm saying, don't waste that 30 minutes. Don't do nothing because you can only do a little. Do what you can. Make it achievable.
Let's move to the next of the categories, which is time management.
Time management. Yes.
So tell me all the things.
So I mentioned before, it has 2 parts that we want to focus on in your day. You want to protect time. So I go a little deeper than what most people would think of as time blocking. They might say, well, Leslie, I know how to block time on my calendar. I know how to do that. Well, sure you do. But we go deeper with this. So it's more extensive. I help my clients understand, and I want you guys to understand, how many days a week, how many times a day, how long should the blocks be? How long out into the future do you go? And what do you do when things go wrong and your day changes, right? So what happens is a lot of people will say, well, I block time when I need it. Okay, well, that's a onesie, twosie approach, which not enough, by the way, not enough. We really want to set it up forevermore on a recurring basis. And I do that with my clients where we're going to set it up and we're not going to put an end date on it at all, because you never want to have it fall off again, after December 31st. And then, oh my gosh, you're starting a busy January. And then you're like, oh my God, I don't have any time blocks. I have no time protected at all. You don't want to be in hot water that way. So set it up on a recurring basis. I protect 1 to 1.5 hours every day in the morning and the afternoon. And I know people's minds are blowing right now because they're like, well, but I have to be available to my team, but I can't shut my door that often, or I can't do this, or I don't feel comfortable doing that. And I get it. I hear it from my clients all the time. And I'm here to tell you, I'm here to be selfish on your behalf. You need this time, because if you're tired of working late, coming in early, or working on the weekends, you have to protect more time. And then when things go wrong, you can always shift a time block. Now, we use Microsoft Outlook, so a lot of people I know are not using that right now, but if you're in corporate, you are probably. So when you set these up, you can move them around without messing up the whole series. And you can say, okay, I'll give Bob that 9 to 10 o'clock spot, and I'm just going to shift my time block to a little later in the morning. But generally, you're going to want to protect this time early in the day and right after what you consider lunchtime. And the reason for that is because more email has rolled in after lunch, and you're going to want to check that and make sure that you know where your tasks and follow-ups are, right? So that's my high level on protecting time to get you guys started with just the understanding the idea you need more time. And remember, outside of those 2 hours or so, you're still available to your team for the rest of the day. It's not like you're shutting the door for 8 hours. No, we're not doing that. So just let people know. Set expectations first. Let them know what's going on when you shut that door. And then saving time is that information management piece. So you really want to pay attention to the systems. And I'm using that term sort of loosely because you might not consider your file drawers a system, but it really is a system for managing the physical paper. If you are in an industry or a job that still is very paper intensive, I'm thinking of mortgage industry, insurance industry, like there's a lot of them, attorneys, there are a lot of small business owners still are paper intensive. So you want to make sure that when you're reaching into that file, that's not the black hole. You got to know what you're looking for, how you're naming things, Same with the e-documents, what I would call the hard drive, or maybe you're using Google Docs, OneDrive, something out there in the cloud. You want to make sure that it's categorized properly and organized in such a way that you know exactly what you're going for. And then contacts. Everybody's got a contact system. You might have a CRM. Use it, because too many people are leaving that contact information embedded in an email, and now it's in an email folder on the left side of the screen. And you don't want to have to go scrambling for that when you need to find a number to call Bob. So use the systems that are around you. You want to make them ship shape and ready to rock and roll so that when you need something, you can find it, and it's not going to hold you up in finishing that task or sending that email. You need that attachment. Oh my gosh, where's that e-document? Now I can't send this email. So you never want anything to hold you up like that. That's going to give you time back. So those efficiencies, by the way, and there's more efficiencies in task management as well. So those are the 3 areas where time is actually hiding in your day. It's in your task management process, your email management process, and your information management process. Because when they're not streamlined, you're losing time either looking for things, or you're trying to regroup between tasks, or when you're trying to do task management, you've got like 6 legal pads, but then you flagged emails, and then you've got papers and files on your desk, and you've got everything like all over the place. Now you're trying to plan and prioritize in your head and not miss, lose, or forget anything. And that's where time loss comes in. So there's time that kind of hiding in all those processes.
All right, I want to go back to where you started, which is around protecting time. And, I mentioned earlier, my specialty area is meetings. And I tell my clients to make a meeting with yourself. That if you were in a meeting and your team member needed you, you wouldn't just walk away from the meeting to go deal with them. You would deal with them when your meeting was done. But somehow we don't give that same respect to ourselves when we have said, I need this time to get this thing done. So I say, make a meeting with yourself. That is your protected time where you are doing something important, no different than if you were spending that time in a meeting with other people doing something important. And as long as your team members know this is your protected time, they can respect that.
It's
all right,
true.
The second piece here around information systems. I feel like a lot of us are moving so quickly that the idea of copying, pasting someone's email or phone number from the email into the other system, we forget that it takes us 30 seconds in the moment to put that information where it needs to be. And we just assume that we're going to remember. And I'm so guilty of this. Some of our best friends in my personal life, I'm always of course I'm going to know their address when we go to their house. And then inevitably I'm crap, what apartment were they? Shoot. And then I have to go digging through my text messages to find it because I'm too embarrassed to ask them because I've been to their house so many times. And I should just put it into my contact so that I know exactly where it is and I never have to look for it. And it's the most ridiculous things, but you're so right. We lose so much time because we're not willing to take the time up front to do that little bit of housekeeping to get things organized. All right, take us home. What do we have remaining here? Email management.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So email management. Here's what's happening with email. Everybody's trying to, there's 2 camps really. Everybody's keeping it in the inbox and they're doing searches, or They're a fan of inbox zero. Now, I don't find too many fans of inbox zero because that is hard to achieve. But there are a lot of people out there like me who are like, yep, love it, inbox zero. What I find more often, though, are the people who are keeping maybe like 20 emails in their inbox. And they're considering it like it's inbox zero, but it's really not. And what it means is those last 20 things are representative of things to do. Yeah. So when you're keeping everything in the inbox, that's a huge time and productivity loss because you have to run searches to find what you're looking for. I know you guys think the search is fast, but I'm telling you that when you have tasks and follow-ups out of email and onto your task list, and you have all your information already put in the places where you can best find it. And it's true, email folders is another reference system, so that's fine. You just don't want to put everything over there because not everything qualifies. You might need something more permanently or long-term, which should really be in your hard drive or your in the cloud or somewhere that is permanent for you. Like, yep, that's long-term storage. It's legal, it's financial, it's historical. You know, I think of email more as a transient kind of in and out kind of thing, like temporary. And if it goes, it goes. And, you know, even the old years can go kind of thing. So be careful where you're storing things and if they're backed up on the server, et cetera. But you really want to pull those bits of information out proactively and get them in the systems where they belong because nothing is best managed while it's still sitting in the inbox. It's just not. Because if you're flagging emails to remember to come back to them, or you're putting a star there or whatever the system is, or marking them as unread so they stay bold in the inbox, you know, you're causing yourself a lot of lost time because you have to come back. The only thing that flag or that star is telling you is, hey, come back and look at me. But that's it. You don't know why you flagged it. Now you have to refresh yourself. Now you are trying to figure out, okay, why did I flag this? What was this about? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can't do that today. No, that's too big. No, Bob's not here today, so I'm going to have to move to the next one, you know, or, oh, I don't feel like it today, not that one, you know, or I don't know where to start. So you skip that and go to the next one. And that can happen again and again and again, you know, 2, 3, 4 times with the same email, but you flagged 20 or 30 emails. You've just lost 30 to 45 minutes in your day right there at various times. So you don't feel it adding up, but it is adding up. So you're literally rereading emails you've already seen, but couldn't do anything with. And that's a problem. So you want to get those tasks and follow-ups out of email, get them on your digital central task list. I call it mission control. It's got to be one, and it's got to have everything on it. Think of it as an inventory of all of your tasks. When they come through email, those tasks need to be integrated over there too. And then reference needs to come out. You know, you're also getting questions, you're getting conversations, you're making decisions. You got to make sure that those are getting stored in the right email folder for future reference. But anything you're leaving in the inbox is seriously a reminder of something to do, and those need to come out. Events need to go on the calendar. We got to talk about reading. I mean, there's so many other things that come through email. So lesson after lesson after lesson needs to be discussed, but that's the high level. You know, you really want to get to zero because that clarity, that awareness of, yes, everything is where it needs to be, where it needs to be managed and kept for future reference or managed for next action steps. That's going to give you so much more clarity, confidence that you're spending your time wisely and control of your data and your tasks. And that's really important.
So I have a rule that I sometimes break, but I try really hard to touch an email once. That if I'm going to sit down and open my inbox, then I am going to open an email and then I'm going to immediately decide what to do with it so that it doesn't become I've read this email 5 times, because I know that I have a habit of being like, oh, I can't deal with this now. I'll deal with it later. And I'm like, no, if I'm dealing with email now, then I'm actually going to do something with this email, even if it is put it onto my task list or put it into a reference material, or put it on my calendar of I need to read this material for this meeting. And so it's coming out of my inbox and going onto my calendar as a time to do that work, whatever it might be. So that has been so helpful to me. The emails that I get most stuck with, I really want to know your opinion on, is I don't really know how to respond. Someone's asking for something and I don't really want to give it to them, or it's maybe just not clear. And so it kind of sits there while I figure out how am I going to respond to this person about this request? I don't want to be mean. I don't want to but then what ends up happening is it just sits there and days and days go by And then it looks really unprofessional because I haven't responded yet.
Right.
So any thoughts on like, what do you do when you're like not really sure what to do with the email?
Yes, it happens all the time. And not every day, but it happens all the time that I see it because it happens to so many of my clients. And so what you would do in that situation is you would think through at the moment, what would happen if I didn't respond at all? Like that's the first thing you always want to address because you're going to have an immediate response to that. You're going to have some immediate feelings about that. And you might say, well, Leslie, I have to respond. Like that's just not an option for me to just blow this off. Okay, good. So that's the first step. You know that. So now the question is, how are you going to respond? And then you want to kind of dial it back and go, okay, well, if you don't know how to respond right now, what are the determining factors that will tell you that you do know how to respond? Like, what's the holdup? Are they asking for something that's too big? Are they asking when they really have no right to ask? Do you have an alternative suggestion for them? You know, I'm making stuff up because I don't know what the email's about, but you know, you want to come out with, what's stopping me exactly? What am I uncomfortable about? And then if it's really tough to think about at that moment, I tell my clients, okay, we're going to get this on the task list and you're going to start the task with consider how to answer, and not this like, oh, now I have to open the email again, but like put the details in the task so you don't have to get down and dirty in that notes section again and open the email. Say, consider how to answer Mary's question about how she wants A, B, and C, and she wants it now or whatever. You know, put the details, get really detailed tasks because you don't want to have to keep double clicking to go inside of a task, look at the notes section, open the email again, because that defeats the whole purpose of integrating the email with that task. You want to be able to see it from the top line, the subject line, like the main task list, whatever tool or software you're using, because you want to be able to prioritize right there and know exactly what it's about without having to open it again. Because opening it again and getting back down in that notes section and opening the email is no different than going back to a flagged email to refresh yourself. So the whole point is don't refresh yourself. Give yourself all the details in that task description so that you can see it from the main screen. And if it says, you know, consider how to answer Mary Smith's question about A, B, and C, it'll jog your memory enough to go, oh yeah, I really should think about that today. And you'd want to put the date, like she emailed on September 1st, you know, get back to her. And you might even put in there, even though you're going to have an action date of when you need to take action, when you need to consider this is when I'm going to do this task, you might want to put an end date, like respond no later than September 20th, whatever, making that up. So those guidelines in the task itself are going to guide you to say, oh yeah, I've already let that sit a week. I only have another week to make this decision. And keeping you in those guardrails, that kind of guides you. And it lets you know, okay, I better like make a decision here. I got to get back to her. And you really just want to take time to do that task of considering, okay, what's really bugging me about this? And then start writing, just like start typing an email and go, okay, how do I feel about that? Like don't send it anywhere, you know, but just kind of type it out and go, okay, do I feel good about that or bad? And even typing it out might help you identify what's bugging you. And you're thinking, I don't know what's bugging me about this, but I'm just going to start a response and just see where it leads me, right? Do that. And that might help.
This is so super helpful. And now we are running out of time. So Leslie, can you tell us about a great manager you've worked for and what made this person such a fabulous boss?
I've had a couple, you know, and I would say that all throughout my career, I've had some really good bosses, but some stand out more than others. And one in particular was a fantastic boss because we ended up becoming best friends and we're still friends today, 25 years later, which is fantastic. A really good listener, compassionate, understanding. And I would say that, that the partner to that boss, because this was still at the same job, I actually had two bosses. One was more of a VP and the other one was more of a director. And they both were really great listeners. One was harder on me than the other, I will admit. He had high expectations for me, but he was also a very good listener so that when I had trouble, you know, believe it or not, prioritizing back in the corporate days, you know, he was really sympathetic and helped me with, here's how you do it. Here's what, you know, everything's going to be okay. You know, I think having a boss and a manager or a leader who can say, it's all going to be okay. Like that's all you really need to hear is, okay, just let me know that the world isn't going to fall apart. Now let's figure out how to fix it. You know, that kind of understanding and compassion is so necessary these days because there are a lot of people who have a conscience and they're like, oh my God, I really want to do well, but I feel like I'm letting somebody down. And you don't want to do that with your team or your leader, your boss, whatever, your manager. So having that manager understand where you are is huge. And I would say that's one of the most important things.
And where can people learn more about you and keep up with your work?
Productiveday.com, as in have a productive day. Easy to remember, or they could email me, Leslie@productiveday.com, Leslie. I'm happy to help. And we have a couple free resources on the website. There's 3 of them on the homepage. One of them is our Productive Day quiz. What's your number one productivity blind spot? And that's a really fun diagnostic quiz because it's only about 8 questions, I think. But once you take it, you find out, are you a giver, a marker, a jumper, or a detective? So that one's fun to find out what your blind spot is. And then you get your own unique results report. And after that, a few days later, you get another special report from me where I dive deeper into that particular blind spot to tell you more about what it is, what it's doing in your workday, how it might be holding you back, and what to do about it to fix it. So it goes a little deeper into what's really happening in your workday that you ended up with that particular blind spot. The other free resource that I love to share is the Productive Day Smart Steps. And this is a 52-week audio series of just 2 to 3 minute, maybe tops 4 minutes, tips straight from Taskology, tongue-tied. That's our system here, Taskology, the science of getting things done. But you can get these audios every week so that you can get tips and strategies to help with your workday, with tasks, time, email, information. I talk about everything, and you'll get just one in your inbox every week. I think we also have one other special report on the homepage too, called 7 Surprising Secrets to Saving Time. And they're all available for you, all free resources. And I invite you to take advantage of those.
Awesome. Well, everyone should definitely check those out. I just did the quiz. I'm a jumper, so I have my work cut out for me. But thank you again so much, Leslie. So much wisdom here. I cannot wait to apply this into my own life.
Thank you so much for having me, Mamie. It was great to be invited, and I loved our conversation. I really appreciate the time.